What happens when two massive personalities collide on daytime television and neither one is willing to back down? The Kelly Clarkson Show just witnessed one of the most explosive interviews in talk show history. And what started as a friendly conversation about music and legacy turned into a full-blown confrontation that ended with security getting involved. This isn't your typical celebrity disagreement. This is about respect, about truth, and about what happens when someone pushes Kelly Clarkson too far. Before we get into all the details, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me whose side you're on. Because trust me, you're going to have an opinion by the end of this. So Kelly starts the interview the way she always does, warm and genuine, with that signature smile that made America fall in love with her all those years ago on American Idol. Billy Ray Cyrus walks out to polite applause, wearing his trademark leather vest and that unmistakable mullet that somehow still works for him. The audience is excited. Kelly's excited. And for the first few minutes, everything seems perfectly normal. They're talking about his new music, his tour, the legacy of Breaky Heart. All the safe territory you'd expect. Kelly leans forward in her chair, doing what she does best, making her guest feel comfortable. She asks Billy Ray about his journey in country music, about how the industry has changed over the decades, and he's giving thoughtful answers, talking about authenticity and staying true to yourself. The audience is nodding along, and you can see Kelly's producers in the background looking satisfied. This is going exactly how they planned. Then Kelly does what Kelly does. She goes deeper. She's never been one to just stick to the surface-level promotional stuff, and that's why people love her show. She asks Billy Ray about navigating family dynamics in the public eye, about being a father to children who are also in the spotlight. It's a natural question, completely reasonable. And at first, Billy Ray seems fine with it. He talks about being proud, about supporting his kids, about the challenges of raising a family when everyone's watching. But then Kelly follows up. She mentions some recent interviews where Billy Ray had made comments about his relationship with his daughter Miley. Comments that had raised eyebrows and sparked conversations online. Kelly isn't being aggressive about it. She's just doing her job, asking the question that everyone watching at home is probably wondering about. She phrases it carefully, respectfully, giving him the opportunity to clarify or elaborate. And that's when Billy Ray's whole demeanor changes. His jaw tightens, his eyes narrow, and you can literally see the shift happen in real time. He sits back in his chair, crosses his arms, and there's this tension that suddenly fills the studio. Kelly notices it immediately. You can see it on her face, that moment of recognition that something just shifted, and not in a good way. Billy Ray starts talking, but his tone is completely different now. He tells Kelly that he doesn't appreciate the implication of her question, that she's trying to create drama where there isn't any, that the media always wants to twist things and make mountains out of molehills. Kelly tries to interject, tries to explain that she wasn't implying anything. She was just asking him to speak on his own words. But Billy Ray isn't having it. He keeps going, his voice getting louder, talking about how talk show hosts love to exploit family situations for ratings, how they pretend to care, but really they're just looking for the next viral moment. And Kelly, to her credit, stays remarkably calm. She's still trying to keep things professional, still trying to steer the conversation back to a productive place. She tells him that's not what she was doing, that she has nothing but respect for him and his family, that she was simply trying to have an honest conversation. But Billy Ray isn't listening. He's on a roll now, and you can see the audience starting to shift uncomfortably in their seats. Some of them are looking at each other with wide eyes, not quite believing what they're witnessing. Kelly's band leader looks concerned, and the camera operators are probably getting signals from the control room to keep rolling, because this is television gold, even if it's not the kind anyone planned for. Kelly finally puts her hand up, a gentle but firm gesture, and she says his name. Billy Ray. Just like that, firm enough to cut through his tirade. And there's something in her voice, that steel underneath the sweetness that reminds everyone watching that this is Kelly Clarkson. Someone who has been in this industry for over 2 decades. Someone who has dealt with difficult interviews and challenging personalities. Someone who is not going to be bulldozed on her own show. She tells him very directly that she asked a fair question based on his own public statements, that she's not here to attack him or exploit anything. But she's also not going to sit here and be accused of something she didn't do. Her voice is steady, professional, but you can hear the edge in it. The audience is dead silent now. This isn't fun awkward anymore. This is real tension. Billy Ray doesn't back down. Instead, he doubles down. He starts talking about how Hollywood and the entertainment industry is full of people who smile to your face while stabbing you in the back. How everyone's got an agenda, how he's tired of playing these games. And then he says something that crosses a line. He tells Kelly that she wouldn't understand because she's always played it safe, always done what the industry told her to do, always been the good girl who follows the rules. The audience actually gasps. You can hear it, this collective intake of breath. Because everyone knows that's not just unfair, it's untrue. Kelly Clarkson has been fighting for creative control and artistic integrity since she was 20 years old. She's gone against record labels. She's spoken out about industry mistreatment. She's been anything but a puppet. And Billy Ray either doesn't know that or doesn't care. Kelly's face changes. That professional smile is gone. She's not angry exactly, but she's definitely done playing nice. She looks directly at Billy Ray and says, "You know what? I think we need to take a different approach here." Her tone is measured, but there's steel in it. She tells him that she's given him a platform on her show, that she's treated him with respect and courtesy, and that she expected the same in return. Billy Ray scoffs. He says something about not needing lectures from someone who won a reality show. And that's when you can see Kelly's last thread of patience snap. Not in a screaming, losing control way, but in a "this is my show and I'm not tolerating this anymore" way. She tells him that winning American Idol was 20 years ago, that she's built a career on her own merits since then, and that she doesn't appreciate being diminished or talked down to. The two of them are going back and forth now, talking over each other, and it's escalating fast. Kelly keeps trying to bring things back to a professional level, but Billy Ray seems determined to make this confrontational. He brings up her divorce, saying something about people in glass houses, and that's the moment where the entire studio knows this has gone too far. Kelly's face goes completely still, and when she speaks again, her voice is quiet, but absolutely firm. She tells him that her personal life is off limits, that he can have whatever opinions he wants about her career, but he will not bring her family into this. Billy Ray tries to say something else, but Kelly cuts him off. She tells him that this interview is over, that she's done, and that he needs to leave her stage. The audience doesn't know whether to applaud or stay quiet. So there's just this strange, heavy silence filling the studio. Billy Ray doesn't move. He just sits there, staring at Kelly with this defiant expression, like he's daring her to make him leave. Kelly looks off camera, and you can see her signal to someone. She repeats herself, tells him again that the interview is over and he needs to go. Her voice is shaking now, not with fear, but with barely controlled anger and the effort of maintaining her composure. And Billy Ray, incredibly, still doesn't move. Kelly stands up from her chair. It's a power move, a clear signal that this is not a request anymore. This is a demand. The audience shifts in their seats, and you can hear people whispering to each other. Billy Ray finally stands too, but he's not walking toward the exit. Instead, he's standing there like he's got something more to say, like he's not going to let Kelly have the last word on her own show. He starts talking again, his voice carrying across the studio, saying that this is exactly what he's talking about, that people can't handle honest conversations anymore, that everyone gets offended at the slightest pushback. Kelly shakes her head, and you can see she's trying so hard to keep her composure. She tells him that honest conversation is not the same as being disrespectful, that there's a difference between speaking your mind and being deliberately hurtful. Billy Ray laughs, and it's not a friendly laugh. It's dismissive, condescending. He says something about her being too sensitive, about how the industry has gotten so soft that nobody can take any criticism without falling apart. And Kelly, her voice rising now for the first time, tells him that he doesn't get to come on her show, insult her, bring up her personal life, and then act like she's the problem for not tolerating it. The band members are watching from their section, completely frozen. Kelly's producer is definitely in her ear through some kind of communication system, and you can see security personnel starting to position themselves near the stage. The audience is totally captivated now. Cameras are capturing every second of this, and everyone knows this is going to be all over the internet within minutes. Billy Ray points at Kelly and says, "This is censorship. You invited me here to have a conversation, and now you're kicking me out because you don't like what I have to say." Kelly's response is immediate and sharp. She tells him, "Censorship is about government control, not about me deciding who gets to be on my privately produced television show. You're free to say whatever you want, but you're not free to say it on my stage while disrespecting me." He tries to talk over her, but Kelly's voice gets louder, more forceful. She tells him that she has built this show on kindness and respect, that those aren't just words on a promotional poster. They're actual values she lives by, and that she will not compromise them for anyone. Not for ratings, not for a viral moment, and certainly not for someone who came here looking for a fight. Billy Ray's face is red now, and he's gesturing wildly with his hands. He tells Kelly that she's proving his point, that Hollywood types talk about tolerance and open dialogue, but the second someone disagrees with them, they shut it down. Kelly's response is ice cold. She tells him that she's had plenty of guests with different viewpoints, plenty of honest, sometimes difficult conversations, but none of them involved personal attacks or deliberate attempts to provoke conflict. The tension in the room is suffocating. You can feel it through the screen. Kelly tells him one more time, slowly and clearly, that he needs to leave. Billy Ray shakes his head. He says he'll leave when he's ready to leave. And that's when Kelly makes eye contact with security. Two large men in suits start walking toward the stage area, and suddenly the reality of the situation becomes very clear to everyone watching. Billy Ray sees them coming, and his whole attitude shifts. He throws his hands up in a theatrical gesture and says, "Fine, he's leaving." But not because she's telling him to, because he's choosing to. Kelly doesn't respond to that. She just stands there, arms crossed, watching him with this expression that's part anger, part disappointment, part sheer disbelief that this is actually happening. As the security guards reach the stage area, Billy Ray starts walking toward the exit, but he's still talking, still throwing comments over his shoulder. He tells the audience that they just witnessed cancel culture in action, that this is what happens when you speak truth to power. Some audience members look uncomfortable. A few are shaking their heads, and you can hear scattered reactions, but nothing like agreement or support. Kelly finally speaks again, her voice carrying across the studio as Billy Ray is being escorted out. She tells him that this isn't cancel culture, this is consequences. She says that her show has always been a space where people are welcome to share their stories, their struggles, their triumphs, but it's also a space where basic human decency is required. And he violated that the moment he decided to make personal attacks. Billy Ray stops walking for a second and turns back toward her. The security guards tense up, clearly ready to intervene if necessary. He tells Kelly that she's going to regret this, that people are going to see this footage and know who the real problem is. Kelly's response is probably the most powerful moment of the entire confrontation. She looks directly at him and says very calmly, very clearly that she's completely comfortable with people watching this and making their own judgments. She continues telling him that she knows exactly what happened here, that the cameras caught everything, and that she's not worried about how this looks because the truth speaks for itself. She says she asked a fair question. He responded with hostility and personal attacks, and she did what any self-respecting host would do by ending the interview. Her voice is strong, unwavering, and you can see that she genuinely means every word. Billy Ray says something else, but the microphones are being cut now, so you can see his mouth moving, but you can't hear the words. It's probably for the best. Security is firmly guiding him toward the exit, and he's still gesturing, still clearly agitated. Kelly remains on stage, standing there like a statue, watching the entire scene unfold with this mixture of sadness and resolve on her face. As Billy Ray finally disappears through the exit doors, the studio erupts. Some people are applauding, supporting Kelly, while others are just buzzing with shock and excitement at what they just witnessed. Kelly takes a deep breath, visibly composing herself, and then she turns to face her audience fully. She apologizes to them, tells them that's not how she wanted the show to go today, but that she hopes they understand why she made the decision she did. Someone from the audience shouts out support, tells Kelly she did the right thing, and other voices join in agreement. Kelly smiles, but it's a tired smile, the smile of someone who just went through something exhausting and emotionally draining. She tells the audience that respect is a two-way street, that she will always treat her guests with dignity and courtesy, but she also expects the same in return. She talks about how the show has always been about creating positive conversations, about lifting people up, about finding the humanity in every story. She says that sometimes those conversations are difficult. Sometimes they involve challenging topics or uncomfortable truths, but they should never involve cruelty or personal attacks. The audience is nodding along, clearly on her side, clearly understanding her perspective. Kelly then does something interesting. She addresses the camera directly. Speaking to the viewers at home, she tells them that they're going to see clips of this everywhere, that people are going to have opinions, that there will be hot takes and social media debates. She says that's fine. That's how the world works now. But she wants to be clear about her side of things while the moment is still fresh and unedited. She explains that she asked Billy Ray about comments he had made publicly in other interviews, that these weren't secret or private matters, but things he had chosen to share with the world. She says she gave him every opportunity to clarify, to explain, to share his perspective, but instead he chose to attack her character, her career, and eventually her personal life. She emphasizes that last part, making it clear that crossing that line was what made the situation irreparable. Kelly talks about how she's been doing this for a long time, how she's had thousands of interviews with thousands of different people, and how she's never had to remove a guest before. Her voice cracks slightly when she says this, and you can tell this whole situation has genuinely affected her. She's not just playing up the drama for the cameras. She's actually upset that it came to this. She tells the audience both in the studio and at home that she believes in second chances, in forgiveness, in the possibility of people growing and changing. But she also believes in boundaries, in self-respect, in knowing when enough is enough. She says that what happened today crossed every boundary she has, and that she would make the same decision again without hesitation. The audience gives her a standing ovation. It's spontaneous, genuine, and prolonged. Kelly looks genuinely touched by the support, wiping at her eyes quickly before smiling and thanking everyone. She tells them they're going to take a quick break, that when they come back, they're going to shift gears completely and do something fun to lighten the mood after all this intensity. As the cameras come back from commercial break, Kelly is seated again in her chair, visibly more relaxed, but still carrying the weight of what just happened. She addresses the elephant in the room immediately, acknowledging that everyone is probably still processing what they witnessed. She tells the audience that she's been getting messages during the break, that her team has been checking social media, and that the response has been overwhelming. Kelly takes a moment to read some of the messages of support that have already started flooding in, and you can see genuine emotion on her face as she realizes how many people are backing her decision. She talks about how sometimes in the moment, when you're in the middle of a difficult situation, you second-guess yourself. You wonder if you overreacted or handled things wrong. But she says the outpouring of support is confirming what she already knew in her gut, that standing up for herself and her values was the right call. Then Kelly does something that shows exactly who she is as a person and as a host. She talks about Billy Ray not as an enemy or a villain, but as someone who was clearly having a bad day, someone who maybe came into the interview with his own frustrations and baggage that had nothing to do with her. She's not excusing his behavior. Not at all. But she's trying to understand it, trying to see the humanity even in someone who just treated her terribly. She tells the audience that she hopes Billy Ray is okay, that she hopes whatever is going on with him gets resolved, and that she genuinely wishes him well despite everything that happened. This statement gets a mixed reaction from the audience. Some people appreciate the grace and maturity, while others seem to think Kelly is being too generous given how badly she was just treated. But that's who Kelly is, and she's not going to change that even when someone doesn't deserve her kindness. Kelly shifts the conversation slightly, talking about the bigger picture of what just happened. She addresses the idea that Billy Ray brought up about not being able to have honest conversations anymore. She says she actually agrees that honest conversation is important, that difficult topics need to be discussed, that we can't just avoid anything uncomfortable. But she makes a crucial distinction between honest conversation and hostile confrontation. She explains that honest conversation requires good faith participation from both parties, requires a willingness to listen as well as speak, requires treating the other person with basic respect even when you disagree. She says what happened with Billy Ray wasn't an honest conversation gone wrong. It was someone who came in looking for a fight and found one. The audience responds positively to this, clearly appreciating Kelly's ability to articulate the difference. Kelly then addresses something else Billy Ray said about her always playing it safe and doing what the industry tells her. She laughs, but it's a laugh tinged with frustration. She tells the audience that nothing could be further from the truth, and she launches into a brief but powerful recap of her career battles. She talks about fighting her record label for creative control when she was barely out of her teens, about refusing to be molded into something she wasn't, about speaking out against industry practices that harmed artists. She mentions her lawsuit against her former management, her public criticism of certain industry practices, her advocacy for artists' rights. She's not bragging, she's simply setting the record straight, correcting a false narrative that Billy Ray tried to create. The audience is eating it up, many of them nodding along because they remember these stories. They remember Kelly being anything but a pushover. Kelly's voice gets more passionate as she talks about this. She says that the idea that standing up for kindness and respect somehow equals weakness or compliance is backwards. She argues that it actually takes more strength to maintain your values and your boundaries while also treating people with dignity. She says, anyone can be cruel, anyone can lash out, anyone can burn bridges, but choosing to be kind while also being strong, that's the real challenge. She addresses the cameras again, speaking directly to viewers, and she talks about how this moment, as difficult as it was, represents something she believes in deeply. She says that you can be successful, you can be powerful, you can command respect, and you can do all of that without being mean or cruel or tearing others down. She says that's the culture she's trying to build with her show. And moments like today, as uncomfortable as they are, actually reinforce those values rather than undermine them. The conversation turns to how the audience felt watching the confrontation unfold. Kelly asks them directly, were they uncomfortable? Were they shocked? Did they think she handled it correctly? Hands shoot up all over the studio, and Kelly calls on a few people. One woman stands and says she was absolutely shocked but completely supported Kelly's decision that nobody should have to tolerate being disrespected like that. Another audience member, a man in the back, says he felt secondhand anger watching it happen, that he couldn't believe Billy Ray kept escalating instead of just apologizing. A younger woman raises her hand, and Kelly calls on her. She says something that clearly resonates with Kelly. She tells Kelly that watching her stand up for herself was actually empowering. That she's been in situations where people have crossed her boundaries and she didn't know how to respond. But seeing Kelly handle it with such clarity and strength gave her a template for how to handle similar situations in her own life. Kelly tears up at this, clearly moved by the idea that this awful experience might actually help someone else. Kelly talks about boundaries again, really drilling down on this concept. She says that boundaries aren't about being controlling or difficult. They're about having enough self-respect to say this is okay, and this is not okay. She says that people will test your boundaries constantly, sometimes intentionally and sometimes not. And you have to be willing to enforce them, or they become meaningless. She acknowledges that enforcing boundaries can feel uncomfortable, especially for people who are naturally kind and accommodating. But that discomfort is worth it. She shares a personal story about learning to set boundaries in her own life. About times when she said yes when she should have said no. About times when she tolerated behavior that made her unhappy because she didn't want to create conflict. She talks about how that pattern had to change, how she had to learn that being kind to others can't come at the expense of being unkind to yourself. The audience is completely silent, hanging on every word because this is the real Kelly. This is the vulnerability and honesty that makes her show special. Kelly brings it back to the Billy Ray situation one more time, summarizing what happened and what it means. She says that she invited him on the show in good faith. She asked legitimate questions based on his own public statements. He responded with hostility and personal attacks, and she made the decision to end the interview and ask him to leave. She emphasizes each point clearly, creating a simple narrative that anyone watching can understand. She addresses the idea that this was somehow an attack on free speech or an example of cancel culture. Kelly is firm on this point. She says that Billy Ray is free to say whatever he wants, wherever he wants, but he's not entitled to her platform, her stage, or her time. She says that having consequences for your behavior is not the same as being silenced, and that conflating the two diminishes the meaning of actual censorship and actual threats to free speech. The audience applauds this point strongly, and Kelly smiles. She thanks them for their support, for being such an incredible audience, for being willing to sit through what was clearly an uncomfortable and unexpected situation. She jokes that this was definitely not in the show notes, and the audience laughs, grateful for the moment of levity after all the intensity. Kelly takes a deep breath and looks directly into the camera for her closing thoughts. She says that what happened today was unprecedented for her show, that it's not the kind of television she ever wants to make, but that she's grateful it happened in some ways because it allowed her to demonstrate the values she talks about. She says that respect, kindness, and boundaries aren't just nice ideas. They're principles worth defending. Even when it's hard, even when it creates conflict, even when it means making difficult decisions. She tells viewers that she hopes they never have to remove someone from their lives the way she removed Billy Ray from her stage today. But if they ever do find themselves in a situation where someone is consistently disrespecting them or crossing their boundaries, she hopes they have the courage to do what needs to be done. She says that you teach people how to treat you, and if you accept disrespect, you're going to keep receiving it. Kelly wraps up by thanking everyone who has already reached out with support, everyone who has been commenting and sharing their own stories about boundary setting and standing up for themselves. She says that's what she loves about her audience, their willingness to engage in real conversations about real issues, even when those conversations are sparked by something as wild as what just happened. She smiles, that genuine Kelly Clarkson smile that has charmed millions. And she tells everyone she'll see them tomorrow, that the show will go on, that they've got great guests lined up, and that hopefully tomorrow will be a lot less dramatic than today turned out to be. The audience laughs and applauds as the show's theme music starts playing. So there you have it. One of the most intense confrontations in daytime television history. Kelly Clarkson versus Billy Ray Cyrus. A clash that ended with security involvement and a guest being removed from the stage. If you want to see more breakdowns like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now and drop a comment below telling me. Do you think Kelly handled this situation correctly, or should she have approached it differently? I want to know what you think. So get down in those comments, and let's talk about